See you. Good to see you. Welcome to the Dr. Boyce Book Club. Today is Wednesday. This is one of my favorite days of the week.
Hey, Dr. Watson.
Hey, we got a special guest coming in today, Dr. Claud Anderson. That's his son, Brant. How you doing today, Brant?
Good. I didn't realize I was on TV. Hold on. Let me get out of here.
Oh, no problem, man. No problem. You don't have to hide. Hey, everybody. Let me open up the chat so you guys can chat. For some reason, Zoom automatically shuts off the chat. I don't know why they do that, but there you go. Now you should be able to chat and talk and let me know what city you're coming from and all that good stuff. And we got Dr. Anderson coming in a second. I'm gonna tell you, my friend just saw me or not saw me. My friend just sent me a video that I thought was just really funny. It was I want to see if I can download it and screen share it because it was really a really raw kind of way of basically saying that rappers that disrespect Black women, that talk about killing Black people and all these other things, that's just disrespectful and I think it's racist. And I thought it was really a powerful statement. He made it a very interesting way. I'm gonna try to download the video. Somebody sent it to me, and I had to warn you though. There's a lot of cussing, in this video and stuff like that. So, but I'm gonna try to see if I can download it and play it for y'all. It's in fact the video is so raw that I probably couldn't even play it. I probably couldn't even play it like on YouTube or anything like that. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to do these Powernomics conversations in private, because social media will shut you down. And there he is. How you doing today, Dr. Anderson?
Oh, I'm doing better than I have done in 7 or 8 years. I'm ready now, boy. I survived the long turmoil that was imposed on me by some of the dumbest ass white doctors in the world.
Okay. Oh no.
Oh yeah, they put some stuff on me and said, boy, we're gonna get rid of that Negro. And I'm just beginning to recover and get in a good mood now. And I'm ready to kick butt and jump in the sky and back kick them.
All right, that's what I'm talking about. That's what we love to hear. I don't know about y'all, but that makes me excited. I'm very happy to hear that you're feeling okay, and I appreciate you joining us tonight. Thanks for stopping by.
Well, as I've told you before, even though I know you probably don't believe it, but you're about one of the best friends I got in the world. And I got millions of friends around the world in different countries. From all those years in politics and heading up trade missions to third world nations, I got millions and millions of friends. But on the top of that pile, like that pyramid, there stands Boyce Watkins. You can't get any better than that.
Well, I'm honored and flattered. I think of you like a father, and I'm always be there for you. I don't know which of us will be around the longest. You're the strongest between us two, but I'm gonna be with you for life. You know that. So
well, I know that, and that's why I appreciate it. Get that back for me, friend. I appreciate that, and I will always be there for you whenever you need me. Even though last week, I'm sorry I missed your program last week, because that's why I'm coming out of some things now that I've been so involved in. I couldn't do very much except get up, eat, and go to the bathroom. That's about it.
Wow.
But I'm getting stronger now. So. And I haven't forgotten about your project I'm working on for you, the curriculum for that academy that you want to set up. I'm going to participate with that in all kinds of ways, and I'll talk to you about that later.
Okay.
But right now, I just want to come on your program and tell you I'm with you 1,000%. And
well, we would do 2,000%. We all have your back, and I assume everybody in here knows who Dr. Anderson is, so I don't have to introduce Dr. Claud Anderson. I will name his books, though, in case you don't know the names of his books. He wrote Powernomics, Black Labor, White Wealth, The Black History Reader, Dirty Little Secrets 1 and 2. And so today, what I was thinking about Dr. Anderson was I wanted to spend this time in the book club in your book Powernomics, starting at page 77, where you talk about nationalism and pluralism. And I'm thinking a good way to guide this conversation, you since you are the expert on what you wrote, I was thinking I could be the assistant. I could read a paragraph, and then I'm gonna stop talking, and I'm gonna let you share whatever comes to mind based on what I read in that paragraph.
That That's the way it should be. You lead and I follow.
Uh-oh, I thought you were the leader, but hey, I'll be glad to do it.
No,
Okay,
I'll be glad.
so everybody, I hope you'll greet Dr. Anderson and let me know let us know what cities you're coming from. I always like to see what city everybody's coming from in the chat. Let's see. I see Donna and LaShawn and Stephanie and Bernard and Tarsha and Karen from Gastonia, North Carolina, Baltimore, San Leandro, Detroit, Oakland, Dorothy's out of Oakland, Brandon from Virginia, DC, Cleveland, Teresa, I see you from Cleveland, Victoria's from Montgomery, Alabama, Kim in Atlanta, Denise in Atlanta, Tony Foster, Seattle, Livia, Sacramento. All right. So I see all of you from your different cities, and it's scrolling down so fast. It's hard for me to keep up with everything. So that's why I didn't maybe can't always say your names, but I see you in here. Inez Boykin. I know Inez. Inez is in also with some of our programs in the Black Business School, and I want to make you real happy, Inez. We're going to make you proud. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm reading in your book, Dr. Anderson, page 77, where you talk about nationalism and pluralism, and just kind of help us establish a framework. We had a good conversation earlier today with Rizza Islam Maj Toure from Black Guns Matter and Professor James Small, and they were speaking highly of you, and we were talking about power and the ability to protect the community, the ability to have the ability to be able to even stand up for yourself, and they went into everything from economics to controlling the politics in your community, controlling the culture. Maj actually talks about guns, which I think is an important thing for us to talk about in terms of protecting ourselves. So I'm gonna start reading, and then when I stop, you can just take it in whatever direction you'd like to go. So here we go. Since nationalism and pluralism allow millions of ethnic immigrants to compete as a group, they have the potential to do the same for Blacks. Devotions to one's own cultural group or nation is called nationalism. Nationalism helps groups build communities, mobilize for power, and control resources. It allows cultural groups to function as nations within nations. Black Americans are a nation within a nation, but have never behaved in a manner consistent with this reality. In our pluralistic society, many groups are nationalistic. They form their nation of peoplehood based on common underlying characteristics, from skin color to language. Nationalism is based upon a sense of community and can make it easier for Blacks to build a cohesive group within the nation. As an excluded nation living on the margins of American society, Blacks have marched, prayed, and fought to be accepted into mainstream society. They have wanted to be a part of the nation rather than to be a nation. And then you say that Blacks need to emerge and begin to compete based upon the reality of where they are. They are an obsolete labor class that is reluctant to build and live in their own communities. Unlike Blacks, European ethnic groups built, worked, learned, and thrived in their individual respective ethnic communities up until the end of World War II. Then they proclaimed their whiteness, abandoned their ethnic communities, and assimilated into the majority white society to help fend off the civil rights movement's push for social integration. Thus, today, there is a solid white unity amongst Germans, Italians, English, Polish, Greeks, and other ethnic groups on racial matters than Black people. New ethnic immigrants are exercising an old assimilation option. Arabs, Asians, Eastern Europeans, and Hispanics are building and maintaining their own ethnic communities again. Dr. Anderson, I'll let you take it away from here. What comes to mind for you?
Well, first thing is, let me say, I was glad to hear that you have my friend James Small on it. That's a very bright Black man. So he tells you something, believe in him. He's a good man. Tell him I said that too. I love the guy. But now, what you're talking about now is I have to try to remember all the stuff that I wrote in about 5 different books, and including over 1,000 stories about Black folk and nationalism and pluralism. And you pretty well define nationalism. Nationalism really is just a sense of peoplehood, a sense of people saying we are special people. And in that regard, it's unfortunate that Black folk are not nationalistic in this country. That's one of the big things that's taken them the wrong way. And that came from the civil rights movement. The civil rights movement with Martin Luther King and the rest of them, they put Black folk on the wrong road. That's why if you look back now, 60 years later, after the civil rights movement, we have not gone any place forward. We've gone every place backwards. And consequently, one of the biggest reasons that took us backwards is we have no sense of nationhood, no sense of a peoplehood. And you cannot have a nationalistic feeling about yourself and your people until, this is very important, you make sure all your audience get this, you must have a code of conduct. You must have a code of conduct or a code of basically of ethnicity and also a code of etiquette, how do you get along with each other. Black folk have no code. Now the other groups all have codes, every group in America. And that falls all under pluralistic groups. Every group in America, all the Asians, Arabs, Hispanics, American Indians, Eskimos, anybody, they got a code of conduct. And a code of conduct relates to that community. If you don't have a code of conduct, you can't get a community. If you don't have a community, you can't have a code of conduct. And so, for instance, in a community, the 3 elements that you must have in a community, you must have 3 elements. Those 3 elements must be, first, an independent, wholly independent economy that operates within that community, that provides jobs, businesses, service, employment opportunities, product, heritage, history, togetherness for your own people living there. That's the first thing you must have to be a community. We do not have that. The second thing you must have in a community, you must have a code of conduct that decides and defines what kind of political leadership you're going to have. And see, we don't have that. We'll go out right now and vote for anything. We'll probably pick the biggest dog today. If he ran for the mayorship, we'll vote him in. And nobody, one thing about blacks, they don't demand any respect or appreciation or recognition, and they don't get it. But you have to have that code of conduct says, if we get a community, and we got first build an economy. Secondly, we'll get that community. We're going to build a code of conduct. It tells us who we're going to support, buy from, love, care for, and work for, and have pride in, and in every respect. And if in terms of elected politics, we will only elect those politicians who would personally say very vocally that who they're going to represent once they get to office. Black people are the only people in America that will vote every election for somebody that has never promised them one damn thing. I ran campaign after campaign, and I would tell black folks, don't come here and tell me what you're not going to do. Tell me what you are going to do. Now, the first thing I would ask for politicians, if they run for an election, who are you going to represent? What are you going to do for black people? What promise are you going to make? And I tell them, come up on the stage and tell these black folk that. If you don't promise them anything, then get off the stage and go back home and watch TV. And it's quick coming out here running for offices. And every black I see run for office, the first thing he will say in terms of code of ethics and a code of conduct. He'll say, if I run for office, here's what I'm going to do based on my code. I'm going to represent everybody. Now, and I say, well, why are you running for office? Why don't you go home then? Nobody invites you here to give you a vote for represent everybody. When you go downtown, if you get elected, you swear an oath to the office. You must promise who you're going to take care of. Well, I'm going to take care of everybody. Did everybody vote for you and put your butt in office? No, I didn't get any votes from the American Indians. I didn't get any vote from the Koreans. I didn't get any vote from the Eskimos. I didn't get any votes from the Ecuadorians. Well, I didn't get any votes from the Mexicans. I didn't get any votes from the American Europeans, the French and the Germans and the Russians. Well, who in the world? Why are you trying to represent them? And that's the second thing. Quit trying to represent the world, represent those people who live in that community, and that gives you a code of conduct. That code of conduct will say, you are now responsible for being nationalistic by simply saying that in the future, my primary sense is representing those people that give me a sense of adulthood, of being a vocal American people, for fighting for that which I stand for my own people, but standing up for everything, dealing with black folk. That is a code of conduct. That's who I'm gonna buy from. That's who I'm gonna buy from. I don't care if you don't get the best product. The first time you buy from, you tell them, so you get it out, I'm gonna buy from you. If you open up a business, I'm gonna buy from you. I don't care if your price is 5 cents more for a loaf of bread than the white. I'm gonna buy from you anyway. Until you give you a month or a week, so to get better bread in here and now to come back again. But in the meantime, as long until that day comes, I'm gonna spend my money with you. Even if I don't get the best product every time, I'm still gonna spend my money with you. Black people must learn through a code of conduct to make your money bounce 8 to 10 times before it leaves the Black community. And you don't have any communities now. All you got are neighborhoods. We don't have not one Black community in America. How are you gonna get a sense of nationalistic motivation to take care of your people if you don't have a community or a sense of community? You got to have one of the two. We haven't got either one. And the last thing you must have people in there who are willing to vote, to come and rescue you, take care of you, and do anything that needs to be done, and to educate our children in the broad context of being people of a peoplehood. That's what we don't have. So, but that's nationalistic. Nationalistic means a sense of peoplehood. And now everybody else has got a peoplehood. You go down south right now to the Confederate States in the South. They got a strong sense of peoplehood. And they have tried to take over this country. They've tried to take over this country at least 3 times already. You had these big revolts. That's what the Civil War was about, where Southern whites were trying to take over the country, and they're doing the same thing they're doing today, going around telling people, this is our country and we're taking it back. It's not your country. You're a guest in this country. Every white person in this country is a guest, but see, he has a strong sense of peoplehood. And they all play that rule about we all sticking together because we're Europeans. Now, one time they were not pluralistic. They only became pluralistic after the Great Depression in the 1930s. And as Black folks started looking for some form of social integration, which they got, and Martin all put them on that wrong track. And they said, well, you know, we don't have to own or control anything. We'll let everybody else come to our neighborhood and we'll start practicing pluralism. We'll just represent everybody. And then that gives you what's the biggest lie ever been told in this country. The biggest lie that's ever been told was about pluralism. Saying that everything. This is a country of immigrants. Everybody here is an immigrant. Everybody here is equal. Everybody here gets the same amount of opportunities and the same chances to have a productive, safe and secure and wholesome life. That's the lie they tell all the time about America. That's called a pluralistic society, which means everybody is treated equally. Then Black folk must learn to tell people, we don't want to be treated equally. Now that frightens people when I say that. We do not want to be treated equally. We want to be treated better than equal. We want to be treated better than equal. I'm not going to go out to a horse race and say I'm going to bet on a horse. I want all the horses to start off at the same time when the gun goes off, racing around the track. And I want them all to come in equal, come in at the same time and be equal. No, I want Black folk to be above equal and say to the whites that the biggest lie told is about you all came here. 99% of all the whites in this country have been here as through their ancestry coming from Europe. Those Europeans came here for totally different reasons than Black folk. Black folks are the only non-immigrants in this country. And they need to start setting themselves out by saying, we are exceptional people. We are exceptional people. We're not like anybody else. And that means that you got to be careful using the word African when you say that. When you keep saying we are African Americans. No, you're not African Americans. That is a negative. You can't get a sense of peoplehood if you keep talking, and a sense of nationalism if you're talking about we are African Americans. You are native Black Americans. That's your sense of peoplehood. You're native Black Americans. You are the people that built the roads, the highways, the canals, the colleges, the business, the government buildings, and pulled all the wagons, picked all the cotton, picked all the rice and indigo and tobacco. No, you are special people. You're the only people in this country that were never treated as an immigrant. Blacks have never been treated as immigrants. And whenever you started supporting immigrants coming into the country, you're diluting yourself down and giving them a chance to practice nationalism based on their culture. That's how they can come in this country right now. When they come in, they get 4 benefits that you don't get as a Black who's been here ever since slavery. That's why they got their own communities, and they can market their culture, market their language. They can demand special privileges as Hispanics or Germans or Italians or Arabs to get their radio stations, TV stations, and special schools and credentials. So what I'm saying to you is that that's pluralism. Pluralism is pretending that all people are equal and sitting in the same bag and same box, and they've all contributed equally to the development of this nation, and that's a lie. Black folk, and all the Black people here now, 99% of them are the direct descendants of slaves. 99% of all the Black people in America right now are still the direct descendants of slaves. That's even with having had Blacks come in from the Caribbean and from Africa and other places on the earth. That's less about 2% have come in this country that have not been here since slavery. So you start talking about reparations and stuff, separate yourself and demand that people treat you as a special people. And so we can have a statehood. We're gonna build our own communities. And then we're gonna go back and take back our culture and put it in those communities. Now, right now, the geniuses that we have for music and dance and language and slang and sports and all that, all those things should be put into a Black community. And out of that Black community, you develop special schools strictly and solely for the needs of Black children. Black children are not the same as white children. And the dumbest thing you can do is to pretend that we got an education program for all the kids, then you need to be fired. Because right now there's a great difference between the descendants of a slave and the descendants of the slave master. Their children are different. Black children come to school with wholly different needs than white kids. So why the hell are you busing Black kids over to white schools? 75% of all the Black kids right now today, on this day, are riding buses over into white schools. Well, they know why? So they can keep this myth about a minority going and keep those children being socially conditioned to be less than human beings, minor human beings. A minority is a loser. Black kids, you must stop those and build special schools based on the curriculum and the future needs of Black children and what they're gonna have to do to be able to survive and compete. And I think that's what you have in the back of your mind, what you want to do, and building a special academy. That those children can look at where we are, where we came from. Now let's build a special curriculum. If everybody's going to the moon, then you start to figure out how we can start special curriculums that teach a Black child how to survive on the moon. How many chemists will we need? How many engineers? How many vegetarians will we need? People who can go out there and grow agricultural needs for they feed their people on the moon. Who's gonna be the people gonna be the fighter and the pilots and all this? But wherever this nation is going, Black kids gonna have special needs that the white kids won't have. Now I've given you a lot of information. Most of it is totally useless. I can throw in the basket, but
no, it's not useless at all. And everybody let Dr. Anderson know this is not useless because they're not getting this anywhere else. I know I'm not. And I want to remind everybody that if you want to buy Dr. Anderson's books, he has a whole library pack that you can get for $99 at powernomics.com. That's powernomics.com. As we circle around and we got school starting soon. You got the holidays coming and whatnot. I hope that you all will crash his website but not for too long, but really go to his website and buy them as gifts. And everybody can do that. When my wife and I got married, we did not receive one single gift from anyone. We did not accept any gifts. What we did instead was we said we want to give you a gift, and our gift to everybody at the wedding was we gave everybody a copy of Powernomics because that's an important value system in our family. So represent what you believe in. You know, if you have a little extra money, go buy extra copies. Give them out to the neighborhood people. Let them know that's your economic Bible. I think he's earned that right. Also, I want to mention that one of you asked about the options classes that we're doing in the Black Business School, and you mentioned that the book club code wasn't working for whatever reason. So because you're in the book club, I've extended the discount. You can actually get 25% off the options training program. I'm gonna put the link in the chat, and also I will put the discount code if you want to go with the monthly option is Book Club Monthly, and the discount code, if you want to go with the annual option, is Book Club Annual. I'm gonna type all that in there, and if somebody could write that down and share that with anybody who asks about the discount codes later on, I'd appreciate that. So you can go right there to that link, drboyceprime.com. This drboyceprime.com. That stands for Passive Recurring Income Machine. And you can go to drboyceprime.com, use the codes Book Club Monthly or Book Club Annual. And that's just, and that's a code that's extended only to you because you're part of the book club. Everybody who's listening on Instagram, I'm going to have to shut off the Instagram in a minute because the book club is private, but you can join for free. We're going to get into some private conversations. So just click the link in the bio. You can join the book club for absolutely nothing and come into the private Zoom. Same thing on YouTube also. So Dr. Anderson, what I'd like to do is read the next paragraph, a paragraph and a half, and then allow you to do the same thing. Stream of consciousness. You just tell us what comes to mind as I read this to you. And I'd like to get your analysis on this. So here you talk about on page 78 of Powernomics, page 78, you talk about ethnic enclaves and Black nationalism. So you said first generation ethnic immigrants typically build their own independent communities before assimilating into the larger society. During the second generation, they retain their ethnic communities as socioeconomic alternatives. A second generation of Chinese, Arab, or Hispanic persons can always go back to his ethnic community if he feels rejected by whites. This is important, everybody. I want y'all to listen to this, right? Because Dr. Anderson has actually mentioned that it is child abuse for you to send your child across town to his enemy to beg him for a job. And Dr. Anderson, I'd like for you to address that. And so he says here that whether they practice separation or assimilation, ethnic immigrants openly demonstrate the advantages of ethno-aggregation and nationalism. Nationalism gives them an internal sense of peoplehood and a cultural base. It also functions as an umbilical cord to their network of communities and their countries of origin. So what he's saying is they have a base. They have a place they can go to. You have a home base, like a military base, where you are safe, where you can go. A lot of Black folks don't have a base. These communities have served the political and economic needs of American ethnic immigrants for centuries. On the other hand, white America is threatened by any form of competitive Black nationalism. So they are threatened when you stand up and when you unite. Whites prefer that Blacks remain unchanged, the models of patriotism and democratic principles. They want Black people to be passive and captive consumers who live in Black neighborhoods and remain out of sight and out of mind. Nationalism and pluralism can help Blacks build independent communities as well as promote their own self-interest. So you talk about nationalism and pluralism. You talk about how nationalism is a threat to white supremacy or to the racism, whatever we want to call it. And also you talk about having an economic base and a cultural base. Dr. Anderson, please take it away. Let me know what comes to mind as I read this paragraph from your book.
Okay. Well, thank you. We have to begin to have our own communities and where we can store our own culture and be able to take advantage of it. That's what all these other groups do right now. That's called intangible capital. When you start building those communities, right? Let's say as an example, right now in America, I guess the average American might have an intangible wealth base of about $400 and maybe $35,000 to $38,000, which means less than $500,000. That's what the average American has, including Blacks. But now for a Mexican right now across the border, do you know what his intangible wealth is? His intangible wealth is about $35,000. To a Black person in America that would have something like about a little less than $500,000 worth of intangible wealth. Now, what is intangible wealth? Intangible wealth are things that you can't that you have to use that can be renewable, and versus tangible capital. Tangible capital with things like cars, automobiles, trucks, machinery, and stuff like that. And once you use it and you throw it away. But intangible, what values you have, what skills you have, how to use your culture. Now, Black folk right now, as an example, we started trying to build those businesses in the Black communities. See, we run straight into two things. First of all, you're going to run into other groups, members who are in there, like whites, Asian, Arabs, and Hispanics. They are trying to use their intangible capital in your community, in the Black community, and build a business in there. They'll have fish sandwiches, fish restaurants. seafood restaurants. They'll have all kind of shops and stuff that they're selling the same products that you would be selling if it was your community, and then, but it's only your neighborhood. And in a neighborhood, you don't have those businesses. We have to be able to say, no, you cannot come into our communities and set up businesses without, and that are competing with us, or they're blocking, they're setting up barriers to stop other blacks from going into business. See, right now, most blacks won't go into business in their own business because there are whites in their black business, in their black communities, and there are Arabs in those communities, and there are Hispanics in those communities that are running the businesses that blacks should be typically running in their own community. And they're jamming up the market so that black folk cannot come out and be competitive. This is one thing that's never raised, but white folks like to raise that. Well, we like you blacks because whenever an immigrant comes to this country, he knows he can go right to a black community because there's a shortage there of everything, and they can start a business and make a good life there. Yes, they can, but we're going to stop that and say, well, we're not going to let you become nationalized inside of our community and work as a barrier against our own entrepreneurial skills that we're trying to instill into these children to raise their own businesses, produce their own products, produce their own services, and produce their own jobs. We don't want you to come in and give our kids jobs. We're going to produce jobs for our own children. And see, that's one of the biggest things that they get away with. Nobody makes that point. And so consequently, whites are going there right now, going to any neighborhood, like in Detroit, Michigan, and downtown Detroit, that you had out of that whole old city, Detroit, all the prime land down there right now, that 98% of all the prime land in Detroit, Michigan right now, prime land for business development on the river. Guess what? 98% of it is owned by 3 white families. 3 white families own 98% of all the land and business land, business development land in the city of Detroit, Michigan, that's been around for centuries. And blacks make up 92% of the population. Because you see, you got all those white businesses still operating in there, and they're jamming up the works by owning and operating businesses in the black community. And blacks don't know how to get them out. You go there and say, well, we have to teach our kids to buy from their own people. That's right, that's the only way you can get them out. Because otherwise, if you don't hire them, well, they're whites going out filing lawsuits against blacks saying, y'all are racist. And say, they don't even know what racism is. No, you're racist being in their community and blocking and impeding their kids from learning entrepreneurial skills to be able to compete. And that's why we don't have any businesses in the black community. That's why right now we don't have less than 2% of the wealth in the nation, because we're not teaching our children to produce. When you go back and get that sense of nationalism and peoplehood, and start to set up your own schools based on that, and say we're going to put the best schools in every black city. We want 2 major schools, and that should be for the most innovative education for black children in every major center. There's one on each side of the city where black kids can go there and get the best education possible in learning different kind of skills that will make them competitive people in business right in every black city. I have 2 of them. Right now in Detroit, Michigan, as I said a few minutes ago, all the land and for building a business is 3 white families own all the damn land. But guess what? Right now, black kids are going to Detroit, Michigan, and that out of every black child that goes to school in Detroit, Michigan, they try to build a community, and so he can get prepared to be nationalistic and look after his own people. Guess what happened? You know what happened is that everyone that starts the school in the 1st grade, that most of them never graduate from high school. Over 50% of them drop out before they even get through the high school level. And out of those that do drop out, succeed and get through high school, most of them are reading at a 4th or 5th grade level, graduating from the 12th grade in Detroit, Michigan. That is a fact. Now, why would blacks right now sit in this country right now and let the high schools in Detroit, Michigan, the rest of these big cities, that over half the kids that start the 1st grade can never graduate? They have no skills. They have no sense of nationalism, sense of peoplehood. They don't know their culture. They don't know the Black history. They don't know how to fight and defend themselves verbally. And lastly, inside their cities, in those Black communities, there's no justice system in there because they're still looking for white justice that come from people appointed to be judges in Black communities by white politicians. Like, for instance, the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is one of the most racist organizations in this country. And you notice every time whenever they appoint somebody, like Donald Trump was appointing 2 of them to the Supreme Court recently. The Supreme Court has always been racist. When the Supreme Court was set up, and way back in the 1800s, first of the 1800s, guess what? Out of the ones they set up, all of them, over 57% of them were slave owners sitting on the Supreme Court. Why would you be appointing slave owners to the Supreme Court to bring justice? You have no justice system in the Black community because you don't have any sense of community. You got Blacks who get appointed to those positions, and like Clarence Thomas, he's worse than the damn whites when sent up there as judges. He has never voted for any one thing to help Black folk since he's been sitting there for 30-some damn years. And Black folk don't raise any cane about it. And Blacks, when they do put politicians in, they don't have a sense of nationalism, saying, we're putting you into office, we're voting for you, and we're gonna play this voting game. Even though right now, because of pluralism, we know it doesn't work for Black folk. Pluralism does not work for Black folk. You know why? Because in this, they built into the Constitution. The first bill passed by the Congress after the Constitution was approved. Do you know what the first bill was, Dr. Watkins? The first bill they passed, they say this is a white nation, and immigration will be determined based on that. That this is a white nation, and for immigration coming in here, it's for whites only. Whites only. They rigged the game. At that point, the game was rigged. The dice were loaded and the cards were marked. And here, Black folk, for 475 years, Black folk have been playing a game about voting. How are you going to vote for something when your game is stacked against you? Whites right now, in this country, we have 10 to 11 whites in the country for every 1 Black person. And you're going to tell them they can go out and vote? Vote for what? It doesn't make any difference. Give you an example from the comical side of it. It's like taking taking a rabbit and throwing them in a bush or a fence of hungry bulldogs. And the bulldogs decide to go in and vote on what they have for lunch. And the poor rabbit doesn't know any difference. He just sit up there. And so he winds up for lunch. Or another example, if I take a Black person now that can't have a read and write and charge him with a crime and throw him in a room with 11 or 12 Ku Klux Klansmen and tell him, y'all vote on what you're gonna do with this Black man in there. And he said, well, Lord, I know y'all gonna take care of us. No, you won't. Right now they talk about what Black folks, the vote is being blocked by the Republicans. The vote was blocked by the first law passed in this nation after 1789. The first law passed, again, was putting into the Constitution that this was a white country of immigrants only for white people coming in. That's why all the stuff now where you train and the people coming in from Afghanistan, those people are classified as whites. Your numbers were already outnumbered you 10-1. You still been let what's this guy, Biden? Hey, Biden's I'm taking care of Black folk. Yeah, he's bringing in Afghanistans and everybody from every country that's not Blacks. When a few Blacks accidentally go through Latin America and crawl across the bridge in Fort Rio, Texas, he immediately sent the troops in there to pick them up and chase them down with horses, and then got 5 planes flying them back to Haiti. What in the hell are Black folks thinking about? We're gonna vote again. Vote for what? I told you to start a damn black national party and vote only for Black folk and hold them accountable. Yet I said, haven't one tried to do it? Not one.
And let me ask you about that, Dr. Anderson. So, because I know that I saw a question in the chat where somebody was asking about solutions, and one of the things, particularly when we talk about Detroit, right? I was up there in Detroit not too long ago with Herb Strathern, Gary Shelton, and all those guys, and it was really interesting to see how this black city was just controlled by these other people, how it become just a big plantation. And now my thought is that being more conscious about what we do with our money and our economics is an important step. If you think about any group that goes and they open up a bunch of gas stations or whatever it is, there's a mindset of a business owner that is instilled in the culture. I watched a 30-minute video with an Indian family explaining how they started off, they bought one gas station. The whole family worked together to run the gas station. Then they bought two, then three, and they got up to 10 gas stations, and they were making a combined total of $37 million a year from these 10 gas stations they had. And they literally started with just one. And the whole family was working together on this. That sounds to me like culture. That sounds like a code of conduct. And it almost seems to me that even though we know what other people are doing to us, I think that I'd be curious to get your thoughts on what we might be doing to ourselves in terms of mindset that might be keeping us from being able to really take back cities like Detroit and regain our power. It seems like it really has to start with the economics, right?
Yeah, you're right. It starts with economics and what they've been brainwashed into believing in pluralism, saying, well, look, I know some Hispanic kids I go to work with, and I even date a girl from Japan. So we don't have any problems. They believe in pluralism rather than a sense of peoplehood for themselves, where they learn to take care of their own people and become independent and get away from all that misnomers those misnomers been put out there intentionally to mislead Black people into being very quiet and accepting. They want you to always pursue acceptance. And that's what Martin Luther King was looking for. Martin Luther King says that what I want is social integration, and which is acceptance. And all we want to do is that to show white folk that if you give us a halfway decent chance, we'll take care of ourselves, we'll become independent, and we'll love the world. And we don't mind being at the bottom like this. Black folk down here, all the other groups are over them. We have a ranking order of social and political acceptability. And Black folk rank in the lowest quadrant down here. And they try to mix it up to show it's not against Black folk, because what we're going to do, we're going to take these lower two groups, because here's Blacks and here's Hispanics, and the Hispanics just came into the country, and so they're in the same position of Black folk. So we'll say Black folks and Hispanics and Blacks, those are brothers, and they're together. That's a lie. Quit letting people hook you up with Hispanics and dealing with racism. Racism is only peculiar to Black folk. Racism only peculiar to those people who got the wealth and power, can use it to enslave Black folk or subordinate them. It does not apply to any other group. It does not apply to Jews. It does not apply to Africans. It does not apply to any Europeans. Racism is a contest where people are competing for wealth, power, and resources. That's why it started out. It stayed as the race went on up until about 1859, when slavery ended in 1859. Then racism, the race was over. It was over then, where all the people in the world were trying to get to the West and own land, and they were being invited here by your so-called founding fathers, who were going back and forth to Europe and telling people in Europe, come to America, and we guarantee that you'll be successful. You know why? Because we're going to give you land and free Black labor. You have to be a stone idiot. Your IQ has to be less than 5 to come to America, and somebody gives you 2 billion acres of free land all across the United States. Free land, then to also give you and enslave something like 9 million Black folk to work free for hundreds and hundreds of years and never get paid, not even fully fed to live, no insurance, no family, take their children and sell them down south. And again, selling them for $500 and $600 a piece. How in the world? I don't understand it. That's why this will be my last year in politics. I've been in it for 60 years. and I've grown tired of trying to tell Black folk, you got to understand these books. Everything that you want to know about how to survive in America in those 5 books. Black, and the first one tells you what your major problem is. Black labor, white wealth. I don't know how you can't understand that. Because you see, white folk, whole point of slavery, and that's where Martin Luther King missed it again, along with the civil rights leaders. What was the purpose of slavery? The purpose of slavery was to maldistribute 100% of all this country's land, resources, businesses, jobs, opportunities, privileges, rights, and voting strength into the hands of the dominant white society. And so if you can beat that and you're down at 0, you must be walking on water along with Jesus Christ. That's what it was saying. You got nothing. You have no power. You got 0. You have no wealth. Your wealth is exactly the same thing it was when the Civil War ended. And the Civil War ended, the average white person in America had owned 3,500 times more wealth than the average Black. And now it's still up to 3,500 times more wealth. It hasn't moved. I got 3 white men in America right now that own more wealth than all the Black people in America put together. And you tell me, what are y'all thinking about? What are you going to school for? If I can go pull down 2 or 3 white men right now and put their wealth on the table, and take every penny in a Black person's pocket and put on that same table, he outnumber you, just those 2 white people alone. What in the world are you going to do? Where's your sense of statehood, of standing up for your own people, have a sense about pride and dignity and respect and appreciation for your own people? That's why I keep saying, don't say I'm just a Black American. Say you're a native Black American and an exceptional Black person. Because you built the country, you built the railroads, you built the bridges, you built the canals, you built all the government office buildings and schools, and didn't get a penny worth of ownership out of it. Never even gotten paid. Most of you died working that hard. You picked all the rice, tobacco, and everything else. And when you broke free from slavery, they gave you nothing. Now, even a white servant was over here. A servant, and white folks say, we had servants. A servant, I mean, you got a contract for 5 or 6 years to work for another white person. And at the end of that white year, you got a contract that says he must pay you for all your days of labor while you are a servant to him. You must give him a piece of land. You must give him some weapons, some tools, and some animals. You gave Black folk nothing. You set almost 5 million Black folk free, didn't give them 1 penny, and told them go out and root hog or die. That was the term they used. You go out there in the streets and root hog or die. Half the Blacks sleeping in alleys just like the other day as homeless people. Where's your sense of nationalism saying we ain't going for that? And I told Blacks before, slavery would not have lasted 1 month if Black folks said, I ain't going for it. If you want to kill me, you go ahead and kill me. But if you miss shooting at me and you go to sleep at night, don't close your eyes. You'll never open them again.
Well, so what you're saying is that one of the biggest takeaways that people need to understand is that slavery wasn't just about the people not liking us just because we're Black. Right. Or it was really more like an economic.
It was strictly economics.
That has to be discussed. Is that what you're saying?
That's what it's strictly economics. Slavery started off as an economic issue. If you're going to resolve it, it must stay economic. Every Black person, whether he's in a public office or working just a job, must stay attuned strictly to that. The only way you're going to overcome this history of racism, you cannot change it unless you have ownership of the resources. And see, and when you hear Martin Luther and the civil rights leaders talking about, what we need, what you want, we want equality. That's a word that's played with. Nobody knows what equality is. We want equal opportunity. Equal opportunity for what? What you own and control determines your opportunities. You don't have any opportunities if you don't have any money. I can take everybody right now in your student, in your sitting right now, listen to me. If I were there right now, I'd walk down the aisle and give out pieces of paper saying, look, write your name and address on here and a telephone number, I'll call you. And everyone that I call, I'm gonna give you a free round trip ticket to Paris, then to London, and every place you want to go for a whole year. I'm gonna give you money to travel all around the world. Now, and when you say, well, but how do I do it? I don't have any money. If you don't give it to me, then you don't have the opportunity. Opportunity does not exist unless you have the money. If I tell you I'm gonna let you travel around the world and live in the biggest hotels and eat lobsters and steaks every night, the opportunity doesn't exist if you don't have the money. But I have never heard one Black person try to explain that to our people and say, work as hard as you can. And even Du Bois tried to explain it the way he wanted it. Du Bois says, you gotta learn what racism is and what you're gonna need and what survival is. And he says, and how you do it. He says that trying to survive is like having 3 ears of corn. You got to produce by taking a seed and planting a seed. Then you got to grow it. Then you got to water it. Then you got to market it. Then you got to sell it, and then save the last ear of corn for seeds for next year's harvest. It's called eat, save, and selling. Now, where have you heard anybody talk about what Black kids should be doing in school? What should schools be teaching these Black kids? If it's not even saving, selling, producing, what are they saving? Ask all those Black kids every day going to school. What are you saving every day when you're going to school? Where are you getting the money from if you're not stealing it? What are you saving? What are you producing? If I gave you that, if you're out selling drugs, and you're making $1,000 a night, what are you doing with that $1,000 a night that you're selling and making money off of illegal activities? What happens to that $1,000? Did you bury it, or did you do something that produces additional money without investing in your own, and you're not selling it to your own people? What you need to be selling your people are the necessities of life. Where are your hospitals? Where are your doctors? Where are your grocery stores? Where are your malls? We got nothing, and I hear nothing every day on TV except about what white folk want to do, bringing in people from out of. We got 300 children now down in across the Mexican border want to come in now. They got to have clothing in schools, and they got to have food, and they have to have materials and stuff. These people are insanely, criminally incompetent. Every damn Black I see right now in office are criminally incompetent. If I was sitting in power and God had put me in a seat of judgment, I would put them all in prison. Those I would put in prison, I'll put them on a boat and ship them down to someplace in the swamps of Amazon. I mean, they're just that useless. They're criminally useless. And you have to name me one bill that they sponsored for Black folk. Tell me what Biden has done. Biden promised he said, I can't make it without the Black vote. Y'all got to get me in, and I'm gonna take care of you. He took care of you all right. He threw you in the commode and pulled a handle.
Well, and actually speaking of economics, I saw a couple of you. I didn't catch all the questions in the chat, but I know one of you were asking about being a vendor at the All Black National Convention. And one thing I had forgotten to mention is that the link to become a vendor is abncvendors.com, abncvendors.com. And actually, because you're in the book club, that discount. There's also a discount that you can get as a vendor or a sponsor. If you want to even sponsor, we will promote your business at a very high level. We don't do corporate sponsors unless they fit and are aligned with the mission of what we're trying to do. So that means you're not going to hear about the convention. It's brought to you by Bank of America and nobody like that. But anyway, if you want to go take a look, I shared the link in the chat, and I can actually put it in there again. So feel free to take a look at that if you have a business and you want to come in as a vendor. If you want to go in and just go to the convention, I also share that link also. So save that. If you have any questions, just email the support team, support@theblackbusinessschool.com. If you ever have any questions, support@theblackbusinessschool.com. And also, Dr. Anderson, before I do our last paragraph, because I know, your wife, actually, Taryn, told me that Mrs. Anderson only wanted you in here for 30 minutes. And so I'm feeling kind of bad right now. So actually, you know what? I'm not even going to read another paragraph because I don't want Mrs. Anderson mad at me. I'm going to let you just get the last word in terms of just kind of moving forward when it comes to the kinds of skill sets that we need to focus on in order to be strong in the future. I'm going to make a guess, and then I'd like for you to just throw in your 2 cents. I saw where they asked this billionaire named Mark Cuban about the skill that it took for him to learn how to make money. He said, look, I don't care if you go to college or don't go to college. He said, if you learn things like how to sell a product, if you learn things like how to start a business, you will always have money. If you know how to sell a product, you'll always have money. You start a business. He said, you can always, any person who knows how to sell can always start a business and make money just out of the sky. I thought that was pretty profound and a very simple message, very simple in terms of saying that when you're talking about things like that are going on in the community, everything from freedom, when you talk about opportunity to do things, well, that's freedom. And you can't have freedom if you ain't got no money. Freedom is not free. Freedom does cost money. Because if you don't have any money and you think you're free, well, you're not really free because you got to go to work that day. Your boss is going to tell you what to do. So my thought is, Dr. Anderson, that make sure all the kids know how to start a business is critical. Make sure they know how to produce and sell a product is critical. What other skills do you think that we would need to have in order to make sure the next generation is not stuck in a powerless position like some of us grew up?
I would say 2 things. Learn what to produce and when to produce it. Producing would come before what Mark talked about selling, having a business. It's fine to have a business, but you better go deeper than that. You got to go down with, you got to get to 2 levels before you get to that business. And those levels come automatically to him because he lives in a white community with whites that have firmly embedded industries that he can access and get resources from that already been prepared. All he's doing is taking advantage of the conditions, all the environments that are already existing. But see, for a Black person, you don't have any industries. Black people in this country and around the world have been the only people on earth that have never enjoyed the fruits of an industrial revolution. They've never. When the industrial revolution went through Europe, at that time, Blacks were slaves in Europe and across into the Middle Ages, into the Middle East. And now in this, when the industrial revolution went through America in the late 1800s, guess what? Blacks were still slaves. Who have ever taught Black folks how to build industries? I got Blacks right now running to every damn college in the country talking, I'm gonna get a degree in business administration, what Mark is telling you about. I don't give a damn about business administration. I want you to learn how to produce. Whether it's in agriculture or machinery or automobiles or whatever it is, learn how to produce first. Learn how to produce. Like W.B. Du Bois said, it's like taking taking 1 ear of corn, take that 1 ear of corn, pull all those little ears, pieces off and kernels off and put it in a hole. And that's what you're now growing. So that means producing, you're producing something. Then as you produce it, when that product is produced, you turn around and see if you can, then you start saying, learn how to warehouse and distribute it. And before you get to this top level of selling, you got 3 floors that you have to get past. And then all of that must be picked up and set inside of a Black community. That's why I call it 5-story. That's the 5-story business I've been telling Black folk out. That's a concept I gave from Powernomics. If you, for the first floor in any community should be economics. Don't talk about nothing about no social stuff. Forget about half this other stuff about getting along with people and going out. Every time an immigrant comes to the country, you rush down to help him. You want to help all the gays, the midgets, the humpbacks, the one-eyed, the cripples, the devil-dumb, and the peg-leg people. No, help Black folk first. And then you spend all your money, make your money bounce 7 to 8 times before it leaves your community. That's very important. Right now, Black folk have about $1.3 billion passing through their hands annually. And out of that $1.3 billion that are going through Black folks' hands in this country every damn year, guess what? All but 1 or 2% stays in the Black community. White folk are now living off of 2 incomes. 2 incomes. White folk live off of 100% of their money and 99% of the Black money, 98% of the Black money. Why you keep feeding them, giving them your money while you starve to death and live in low-income housing? and living and being criminalized in prisons because you're now forced to go steal. There's only three things that a human being can do to survive, Dr. Watkins. He must either have a business or a job to be able to get along and be acceptable and not being chased by the police, or he moves down to the second level. Second level is social. He must be able to link into some kind of a social institution that can provide him with some of the minimum, some of the necessities of life to be able to stay alive. And if he can't get that, because conservatives keep saying we're gonna reduce the budget. That's why they love to talk about reducing the budget. Conservatives are not interested in reducing the budget. They're reducing the job opportunities for Black folk. That's why Blacks couldn't get jobs in government until after the 50s. Then the third thing you must have, if you cut out all the job programs in the government, get rid of the post office, get rid of that, get rid of all the people passing out tickets for parking, anything, and bring in more technology. We could bring in technology. We don't need to hire them more. The last thing at the bottom is that he must either work, have a business at the top, or go down to the second level and begin going social services, or go to the bottom level. He must either steal, borrow, beg, or sophistication, a combination of those three things, and go to jail. Because you're not teaching him how to produce. Tell these civil rights organizations, quit trying to tell people how to get jobs. Black folk don't need jobs, they need money. Money comes from businesses. And then once they get to build that economy in the Black community, and they now got an economy where you hire your own children. Black children should not have to go to another neighborhood to look for a job working for white folk. They enrich them. Black folk have enriched every ethnic group on earth except themselves. They've been doing that now for 475 years. They should be tired of doing it. And then when they leave and go into their neighborhood looking for a job, Black kids should be able to find jobs in their own communities. That's the first responsibility of a Black person going in business, is to provide products, services, and goods for his own people. Quit trying to convince whites to buy from you. There's enough money in your own community, 1.3 trillion. And if you were to take that money and pass it around, every Black business in this country would be running over with money. But all that money is going to whites because it's not bouncing in your own communities. So right now, tell Mark that you appreciate his comments, but he missed the boat by a whole damn yard.
Well, you know what's interesting about that is, this week I went down to the Power Networking Conference with George Frazier, his event, and I was on a panel with some. I was the moderator of the panel, and Mike Roberts was in there. He's a billionaire out of St. Louis. There was Dr. Julianne Malvo, who has a PhD in economics from MIT, but she's, I know her views differ from yours, but I like to just understand everybody's perspective. And then Sheila Jackson Lee, the congresswoman, was on the panel. And one of the things that came up was HBCUs. And most of these HBCUs are an inch away from being bankrupt. Most of them don't have the money that they need. And when they do get a lot of money, they're usually getting that money from white folks. And we all know that white folks don't give away their money without having an agenda or telling you what to say, telling you what to think, telling you what to do. And that creates these problems. Like, for example, how Howard University has had one of the greatest economic minds of the 20th and 21st century, right down the street. And they have never invited you to speak or anything like that, which I think is absolutely an embarrassment. It's atrocious. It speaks to the fact that they are not a free institution. But here was the thought that I had, Dr. Anderson. I'd like to get your thought on this, and then I promise I think this will be the last thing we could talk about tonight, because I want you to get your rest. The HBCUs, one thing I mentioned is I said that if you are always producing employees out of your schools, if all you brag about is how many of your Black students that went to go work for white folks, we had 50 students that went to work for Goldman Sachs, 50 students that went to work for Google, of 100 students that went to work for Facebook. These students went to go work for Ford, and you're not producing these business owners, then you will never have the money that you need. Because when you look at how Harvard University's endowment is $53 billion. Harvard University's endowment is about 50 times larger than the endowment of the top 30 HBCUs all combined. In fact, if you add up every HBCU in America and add it all up, Harvard's endowment, one school, is 50 times greater than that. And they got about 100 schools with endowments of over, 10, 20 billion dollars, that type of thing. So I said, if you go back and you say, well, who wrote those checks to help them build a $50 billion endowment? Employees don't write checks big enough for you to have a multi-billion dollar endowment. Business owners write those checks. Harvard, when somebody gets a building named after them, it's not an employee. It's not somebody that worked for somebody. It's somebody that runs a company, somebody that founded, the founder of Apple or the founder of Google or the founder of Microsoft. Those are the people that come back and write those $200 million checks. So I would say that just with HBCUs alone, that commitment to producing high-paid slaves for a living instead of producing actual owners and people that run organizations is costing the community dearly, because we have a lot of people who are capable of running the whole company, but all they've been trained to do is to be a sidekick. You're supposed to be Batman, but they train you to be Robin. You're supposed to be Michael Jordan, but they ain't trying to make you even as good as Scottie Pippen. And we're always the white man's sidekick because of that, which means we have no power and we end up frustrated. What are your thoughts on that, on what I just said, Dr. Anderson? I'd love to get your take on that.
Well, first of all, I agree with you in every respect. And see, especially on this job thing, anybody again who survived and got above the third grade and he's Black should understand that it is wholly impossible in theory and practice to become rich or wealthy by having a job. A job is not designed to enrich you. A job is designed to maintain you and keep you 1 week away from welfare, food stamps, and the jail for having stolen something. That's all a job is designed for. If you want to get it rich, you got to learn how to attract, plant, produce, and be able to keep the bulk of the money in your pocket, and in your community with your people. That's why white folks, as soon as they started the process of social integration back in the 1950s, or 1956, the first thing they did, they stripped all the major production centers out of these Black cities, stripped them all out. So what ran down Black cities was not Black people. It was the white folk taking all the resources out and starting a new thing called suburbs. There was no such thing as suburbs up until the 1950s. And before that, they used that thing with what's his name, Jackie Robinson. They used the same concept on him by saying, we will be able to give you Black folks a choice, again, to play sports with us. But here's what we're gonna do. We'll come over to your neighborhood, and that time, Black folk had the best baseball teams in America, had the best players in football, the best players in basketball were all Blacks. And they were coming out of Black schools. And guess what? Whites say, well, look, we don't need these Blacks as competitors. What's what we'll do? We'll hire one, and we'll integrate. Integration means integrate, means put a little small speck of something in and get a lot of return from it. And so what they did, they said, we get Jackie Robinson, put him on a Brooklyn Dodgers team. One Black man, let him go into professional sports to represent Black folk. If you really want to see how good Black ball players were, why didn't you put the Black ball teams up against the white teams and let them play that way? Where we had nine Black players and had 9 white players in the baseball game. Why? Same thing in football. But you know why? Because Black folk would have beaten them. White folks would have been whipped to hell by those Black players. And if you look at most of the teams right now in basketball and baseball, the majority of them are Blacks, or they're Puerto Ricans and half Black. And so they play this game with you all about, well, we'll hire some and put them in there. How many Black teams are owned by Blacks in baseball? How many teams are owned by Blacks in basketball? How many teams are owned by Blacks in football? Tell me where Blacks own anything. Blacks own nothing more than 1/2 or 1% of anything of value in this nation. And that is all the way from Connecticut to San Diego. Blacks own just less than 1.5% in a society after being here for 475 years of building the damn country. And you know what? They're bringing in immigrants, giving them the things they will give you where they can own and control. And black folks sit there and let it go on, like these damn blacks on the Black Caucus. Why don't you ask them? Why don't you raise hell and say no? Don't bring any more people here. You're in violation. You're in violation of the 14th Amendment, which says that the focus in this country, the 13th and 14th Amendment, and the civil rights laws were written strictly and solely for black folk. It was a Supreme Court that twisted that around so you bring in all these other people and not do anything for black folk. That's why what you call the revolution, after the Civil War, that's why the whole thing for getting blacks to move up and out only lasted 10 years. And it was over. So it started about 1865. By 85, it was gone. Nothing changed. They didn't do anything for black folk. They gave everything. It had immigrants pouring in this country every damn day, coming up, getting all the benefits. If you were to tell your students, go look at all the benefits right now that Congress puts out every year monetarily to immigrants coming to this country. They don't put out anything for black folk. And I don't hear a mouth move or see a mouth move about saying that is illegal because the Dred Scott's decision says that no black folk has any rights that white folk are bound to respect. And they said, we're going to keep it like that. But the radical Republicans in 1864 and 65, they no, let's put out the 13th and 14th Amendment and the civil rights laws that says the new focus must be on black folk, period. And try to give them what they've always been denied. That was an opportunity to get wealth. Where's all the land that black folks should have gotten? They gave out 2 billion acres of free land to every white. Every white person who owned a slave could get, or coming to this country, could get 640 acres of free land as soon as he set foot on the land in America. And second to that, the government would give him a slave give him another slave and another $150 for every slave he owned. I don't hear nobody raising Cain. That's why I said I've been raising Cain for black folk for 65 years. I'm quitting. I just can't take it anymore. I said either I'm a poor educator or something, because I keep telling the same thing over and over and over again, and I hear something say boom, it hits their head and bounce off. I said no, listen to the stuff I'm giving you. I'm the only forensic historian in America that's black. Blacks do not have another historian. And I'm giving you this information. Show me where black folks use it. Show me how they use it. They don't use it. They, like for instance, in Haiti, they said all those black folk, they turned around and took $35 million and closed down all the black banks in Haiti and put that money in the central banks up in New York. Took the money from black folk. That's why Haitians are so poor. They stole all the money out of the bank. And after the Civil War, we had books banks all across America for black folks, to go put their money in. And do you know the whites went in there, appointed white administrators over every one of those banks, and within 8 years they had stolen all $58 million out of them. I don't hear the black folks talk about we want reparations. Reparations for whom? You cannot get reparations as long as you keep using the word Africa. Every time you use the word Africa, black folk just break up laughing. They say, we don't owe Africa a damn thing. If you're dumb enough to ask me to give you reparations, you got people like the one down in Jackson, in Texas, talking about give reparations to all people. These of those people weren't in the country when not one of their ancestors were in the country when black folk were building this country. Not one. I got people in now in the Congressional Black Caucus saying, I'll only support reparations for black folk to give it to everybody. I said, you're about a dumb H. So I quit there, and I just love you, but just make sure that I can answer your initial question, is that the difference of nationalism is having a belief and conviction in peoplehood, and having a sense of peoplehood for your people and putting their interests before all other interests and all other people, and making sure the resources come to them first. And then you tell all the other groups, the Asians, Hispanics, the American Indians, and everybody else. And plus that, American Indians owned as many slaves, proportionally speaking, as whites did. Yet they keep giving benefits to all these Indians. For every year, they get we got a bank right now in the country that provides, the Indian Bureau provides something like about $38,000 per Indian in the country. And we got the banks and got the these Indian gambling casinos. Last year they gave, I think it did it 2 years in a row, gave every Indian $135,000 worth for every Indian. $135,000 for doing nothing, just splitting up and divvying up the profits they're getting from these gambling casinos. And guess who's flunking in there? Black folk. When the 1866 Indian treaties said black folk were supposed to be treated in all manners similar to American Indians, because that's what the 5 civilized tribes, that's how they were called civilized, because they were holding slaves too. And I don't care what issue I bring up, black folks don't raise the cane over it. And that's what Bill Clinton said once. Bill Clinton said he was totally surprised in being the president that not one black came and asked him to do anything for black folk. All they want you to do is to buy some tickets for a luncheon so they can get a chicken wing or a chicken drumstick with some green peas and Urban League and NAACP. I said, no, y'all can have it. I'm through. I said, and that's the only person I'm gonna do something for is my friend Boyce Watkins. But he asked me to do something else. That's from my mouth to the ear of God. Okay.
Well, I'm honored by that, and the feeling is entirely mutual. And I know everybody in here appreciates the fact that you took the time to come in here. And I hope you will thank Dr. Anderson in the chat. Let him know how much you love him. And also, you know, he mentioned that he was quitting. He was tired. He's done. Well, that's okay. You know, we are going to spread the work out. There's thousands of people that are going to see this video by the time it's done. And I would like everybody in the chat to give me a verbal yes, that you going to go out here and raise hell, that you going to teach your kids to go out here and fight for the things that we believe in. If we're going to do this. We're going to carry this on. We're going to teach this to our children. We're going to make sure that remember, you are talking right now, you're listening to a man that is in the eyes of many of us, the Marcus Garvey of our time. And that means you are not just learning Black history from him, you are making history with him. Okay, so let's make history. Let's really empower ourselves and understand the personal power we have to create the future that we want to see. No spectators allowed. Nobody's riding the bench. We're all going to be players in this game. Okay. All right. So let's a couple housekeeping issues. Number one, Dr. Anderson's website is powernomics.com. As you know, the revolution needs to be funded, and I would encourage you, if you have extra money, to go and buy some copies of his books and have them in your house and just give them away as gifts to anybody that comes in. Let them know what you stand for. Let them know what you're all about. Let them know that you know who you are, and then they'll know who you are. Second of all, you guys know the All Black National Convention's coming up October 28th through the 30th in Charlotte, North Carolina. If you go to boycewatkins.com, there should be links to either get tickets and passes for you and your family, or you can also, there should be a link to be a vendor. If you want to be a vendor or a sponsor at the convention, where you can either sell your products. If you're a sponsor, we'll promote you on this platform. We reach 1 million Black people a week. We're completely independent, and I'd love to support you if you help support us. So feel free to go to boycewatkins.com and take a look at that. The discount code for everybody in the book club is the word book club, all one word. If you use the word book club, if you sign up to either buy a ticket or you sign up as a vendor, use that code book club. And I fixed it during this conversation. So use that code book club. That'll give you a 30% off of your tickets. I think 25% off of your vendor. So make sure you use your code when you buy your tickets. And I hope to see you all at Charlotte. All right. So thank you very much, Dr. Anderson. It was great to talk to you again, and I hope you're feeling okay.
Well, I am, and tell your students that I hope to join with you every time I have the opportunity on Thursdays and Wednesdays for your classes. They are very interesting and they are very exciting to me. And as I said, I told some people right now in the industry that when I'm gone, take my books off the market, because I wrote those books after all these years of being with governors and presidents and leading the only Black to lead economic development movements around the world. and trade missions in the third world countries, the Caribbean. I can talk about Venezuela, Colombia, even into Cuba, or France, England, Germany, Africa, and having been underneath all these presidents. And one of the things I learned is how to beat the system, and everything that you would need to know about how to beat the system and race matters are in there. But if you're going to keep listen to people who've never held a position, never had a major business, I've built several industries, everything from the seafood industries to everything else. And I just said, I'll quit. And I told him, I said, you take my books and put them into a special locker and leave them there for about 50 years. And all those that don't have the book and don't read it, that's tough, because I've told you everything. And this civil war hits pretty soon between these rednecks that try to take over the Capitol here in Washington, D.C. They got another thing coming. And blacks are totally ill prepared to be able to fight and survive, because everybody coming to the country is classified as whites. Asians, Arabs, American Indians, Jews, they all classified as whites. The only people that's not white is black, though. And you don't have the wealth power, the number power, the population power, or any kind of power. And you're sitting there not concentrating, trying to figure out what's in those books. It's going to be tough for you. But I love you anyway, and I love black folk. Always have, and I'll do what I can to help you as long as I'm alive. Take care, my friends. I'll see you the next time.
You too, sir. Talk to you soon. And thank you all very, very much for hanging out with us. And you'll hear from me again real soon. And again, if you want to do anything else that we got going on in the Black Business School, feel free to just go to my website, boycewatkins.com. A lot of the information is there. So I'm gonna go and spend some time with my family as well. And I look forward to seeing y'all really soon. And just let's go get it. You know, we are going to win. We are not meant to be in second place. We are not losers. We are not backward people. You are the representatives of the talented 10th. So go be talented and go be leaders and do what you do. Okay. All right. So have a good night, everybody. And I'll see you all, I guess, probably tomorrow. Take care now. Bye-bye.